யூடியூப் நீங்க போட்டு விட்ருங்க கரெக்டா. Good evening, all. We shall start the session in a couple of minutes. People are joining. Ashik sir, shall we start?
So 1 minute, user is coming.
Yeah. Oh,
Ashik, I'm here. Ashik, I have joined.
yeah. Yes.
We are able to hear you, sir.
Yeah.
In that case, we can start.
Okay. Good evening, all, and we are very happy to have you here in this episode, or like the session on qualitative research in political and social sciences. This is a 5-day series from MCC Research Colloquium. Let us begin this series with the word of prayer. I request Dr. Kalyani, Associate Dean for Research and Development, to lead us in prayer.
Let us bow down for prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us together on this meaningful occasion of the Research Colloquium. We seek your divine blessings as we begin the series on qualitative research in political and social sciences. Grant us wisdom to think clearly, to explore deeply, and to learn continuously. And may this platform inspire insightful discussions, meaningful research, and a spirit of collaboration among all participants. Bless the organizers, the speakers, and the attendees with knowledge, clarity, and confidence. Guide us to use our learning for the betterment of society and to contribute positively to the academic community. We dedicate this entire program into thy hands. In the pursuit of truth, knowledge, and to excel in whatever we learn. We ask this in the matchless name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now it's a time to welcome the gathering, and I request Dr. Tabitha Durai, the Dean, Research and Development of Madras Christian College. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to yet another series from the MCC Research Colloquium. We are overwhelmed by your response. This also shows, the continued support that you have towards our program, and we're very happy to have you here with us. This time, our focus is on qualitative research, and we are focusing on social sciences. Particularly, we have with us a lineup of young resource persons from the political science department. This series is going to be slightly different, where we are going to focus on lived experiences, the frameworks that we can implement, policies that can come out. Now, if you are somebody from the sciences and you may wonder what is the takeaway for you from this series, you'd be surprised to note how simple everyday experiences, observations can be converted into research papers. And we have with us vibrant young resource persons who are today adopting newer techniques in qualitative research, not the traditional methods. We have newer techniques that are being adopted, and they are going to be sharing their experiences with us. So very happy to invite you all. And again, would like to commend the efforts by MCC Research Colloquium, Dr. Vijay Solomon and his team, for putting together this program. And we hope that there will be great learnings for you from this program. So welcome once again.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. You have been always a source of inspiration and support from the deanery. And when we float this idea of having a qualitative research, when you say qualitative research, it should be a quality research. And then we have a brand of speakers from the Department of Political Science. They were so good when I approached them. and the head of the department and the vice principal is here, and they're very supportive to have the line of speakers with the topics at the right time, and so that we could have this particular series. And just to give a brief note about MCC Research Colloquium, it's a virtual platform to exchange ideas, learn from each other. It was started in the year 2020 on May 12th. It's a brainchild of our principal, Dr. P. Wilson, when he assumed office as the principal of Madras Christian College. And since then, we have continuously engaged in exploring new avenues in research and spreading the significance and importance of publishing quality research works in very good journals. That is staying away from predatory journals and clone journals. That was a talk of the town at that time. And then we have moved a lot. And now we are witnessing a beautiful series on qualitative research in political and social sciences. And when we flowed the flyer, and we have got a lot of support across the country. We do have registration from Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat, West Bengal, and so on. 27 states, and crossing 890 registrations from UG student, PG student, faculty, and then people from abroad who have joined here. And I really thank all those resource persons and the management for supporting MCC-RC to keep the vibrancy that it used to have. And just to share a light on the topic, we want to include as many as domains as possible. And since the qualitative research is a word that covers major domain in arts and humanities, being a chemist, it's a different topic altogether. Qualitative research, we always go by the experiments and deriving data and so on. But here, on the other hand, you'll be going by the emotions, words, text, and so on. And I am also eagerly waiting to learn from the resource persons. And as ma'am mentioned, that our resource persons are so good and too good in getting the papers in index journals. So when we see that MCCRC is having a brand of maintaining the quality, this series will give a lot of glimpses about what is expected from the journal's point of view and the editor's point of view. And I wish you will have a lot of takeaways, and definitely, you will be publishing your work in qualitative research, and you will be sharing the papers with us. With that note, I would like to welcome Professor Sridhar, the Vice Principal of Madras Christian College and Head of the Department of Political Science. Sir, we would like to hear it from you, because the speakers are all from your department. Over to you.
Friends, good evening. As Dr. Vijay Solomon introduced me, I also head the Department of Political Science. And so it's a joy that our department is collaborating with the MCC Research Colloquium in offering this 5-day lecture series on qualitative methods in political science and social sciences. In fact, we are overwhelmed by the response. Nearly 900 research scholars, faculty members, budding researchers from all over the country have taken an interest, and they have registered for this 5-day series. So I think this shows that there is a great need, there is a great demand and an interest in qualitative, in learning more about the qualitative research. As Dr. Vijay Solomon also pointed out, whether it is political science or the other social science disciplines, largely our methodology revolves around qualitative methods. So we don't get into the laboratories, we don't conduct experiments, whereas it is largely our lived experience that we convert into research. Almost all our research has a theoretical framework. It has a policy framework, and also a normative framework. So we try to fit our research into a conceptual theoretical framework, a policy framework, as well as a normative framework. So there is a great need to learn more about qualitative methods. That is what we see from the overwhelming response from nearly 900 people who have registered for this series. But the problem with the social science research is not just about doing research. It is also about publishing our research. Unlike in the other sciences, the natural sciences, the life sciences, publishing our research is more of a challenge because the avenues are not that many. And that is where a lot of these cloned and predatory journals, they were trying to fill this gap, and that's not right. And that has been one of the central objectives of the MCC Research Colloquium, to wean people away from these easier options of publishing in these cloned and predatory journals, and to help them identify quality journals. So quality research to be published in quality journals, that has been the objective of the MCC Research Colloquium, and they are doing a great job. I think the fifth lecture in this series will also be the 200th, I think, if I'm right, in the MCC Research Colloquium platform. Friends, the five colleagues who will be delivering lectures to you, they're all from my department, my colleagues, my young colleagues, and they're not only really good scholars, but they're also taking this research publication forward for the department and for the social science departments in MCC. So they will be sharing their experiences in doing quality research based on qualitative methods, and also getting them published in quality journals with you. I really hope that you will find these lectures useful over the next 5 days. But I'm sure many of you also come with your own wide experience. And so please use this platform to share your experience and knowledge as well. So it will be interesting for us to listen to you and to learn from you. And lastly, I would say, please use this platform as an opportunity to network. We need to do a lot of networking, particularly among the social sciences and the political sciences. So please use this opportunity to network, and we will be very happy. You can get in touch with us, and particularly my young colleagues who will be giving these lectures over the next 5 days. So you can get in touch with them for any clarifications that you might have, or any assistance that we can provide. And also, please explore the possibilities for collaborative research with scholars from Madras Christian College, my department, as well as the other social science departments here in Madras Christian College. Thank you very much. I wish you all a very productive lecture series over the next 5 days starting today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for your encouraging words. And you touched upon the lived experience, and I'm sure that all the speakers are going to touch upon their lived experience in the arena of public research and publications. And when it comes to the day one, and you can see the topic that is encouraging, motivating, and inspiring, thinking qualitatively, turning anything into research. And we have a speaker who is again a young and energetic speaker, Mr. Adas Vijay. Is an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science at MCC. And he is a thorough product of MCC, having completed his graduation, post-graduation, and MPhil. And he has been working a lot in terms of research and publishing his ideas in premier journals like Astropolitics, Critical Military Studies, Maritime Affairs, and so on. And he has been serving as an academic counselor for MA Political Science program at Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. And there are a lot of credentials to his CV. Just to put, he has done a lot of book publications in addition to the Scopus Index journal publications. And he will be starting this particular series. And without further delay, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Adas Vijay. And before that, I just want to give some guidelines for the participants. Please put your mic on mute so that I know you will not disturb the speaker as well as the participants. And the same program is being live streamed, and the YouTube link will be shared in the WhatsApp group if it exceeds 500 participants. Okay. So over to you, and then at the end of the session, we'll be sharing the feedback link, which will be shared only in the chat box. It will not be shared in the WhatsApp, and daily feedback is mandatory for getting the certificate at the end of the series. Over to Adarsh.
Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are.
All right, my PPT as well, is it visible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So, good evening, everyone. First of all, my thanks to my department, as well as MCCRC for giving us this opportunity for a 5-day session on qualitative research with a special focus on political and social sciences. So, this being the first session, I just wanted to be a little looking into the basics of how do we approach what we call research in the domain of political and social sciences, and even the term we have carefully chosen for that being for the reason that we are predominantly representing political science in that regard. So starting off with the very title here, I'm just trying to look at the thinking part of it. Okay, the most often because the one argument we often have about social sciences is that we are not that focusing on quantitative, but not really that's the case again. But fundamentally, there is so much of a scope, and in fact, I would say that the fundamental tenet that keeps guiding social sciences has been the qualitative way of thinking. So given that, I'm just trying to look at maybe how anything can be an academic object. So that's a one question maybe that I have framed as far as my presentation is concerned. So I'm moving on to the next slide. So what do I mean here? Because again, as the host and everyone, even my head of the department and even the deanery R&D has been speaking, the focus is also on bringing in the lived experiences. So because one thing that we keep learning from social sciences is that we need to situate the people. No, when we talk about the object subject reference, it's very important that we need to keep or maybe even situating ourselves in the very context. That's very important too. So given that, when I look into my presentation today, I'm also trying to navigate my experiences. Okay, maybe like how do I look at maybe what we may call qualitative research, and how do I look at research, and how often I think about the topics. So that is also one of the maybe critical components given my session is concerned. So if you look at that again, when I have chosen to speak on this topic, because it's not that probably, but when some people might assume the qualitative research is being very easy research. So that is not the case at all. Because if then everyone would have done it. Not everyone does that. Not when it comes to if you look at the statistics, how many people get to be having PhD, maybe how many people are into academia. It's more like a luxury too, if you really look at maybe how many get to be part of the knowledge production process. So given that, if you look at that, the qualitative research is not an easy one. Okay, it has its own intricacies, nuances, difficulties, and challenges. So this is something what I will be covering, maybe in a very, I was in a personal perspective too, given my presentation. And I look at the qualitative as a very fundamental framework when it comes to political and social sciences. And also at the same time, and we all know, since we are all in the field, we also know that we also make use of the quantitative approaches too. That means it's not that, okay, we have a disregard for the mathematics. That's not the case at all. And often we get to hear maybe some academic stereotypes too, like that we are bad at math, so we don't look into that. That's not the case at all. Okay, we are all capable of mathematics. We all have a mathematical mindset inherently. But the here is that certain things around the world maybe cannot be mathematized or maybe like quantitatively captured. So given that certain tools, maybe what I call the mathematical tools, are not maybe suitable or maybe completely incompatible, maybe in decoding the socio-political world or the socio-political universe as we concern. So given that, if you see, the qualitative seems to be the most fundamental one. At the same time, we also make use of maybe what we call the quantitative approaches in terms of the mixed methods approach and what we call the multi-method as well. If I say multi-method, it only means that multiple methods can be used. It can either be from the qualitative as well. That's one thing we should know. But at the same time, mixed methods is more about when we're trying to bring in both the qualitative and the quantitative. And most people even focus on those lines too, even when it comes to some of my research works and even my colleagues. And I'm sure that almost, I think many participants among us now all are also relying on the quantitative aspects too when it comes to the mixed methods approaches. So coming to the next slide. Some of the common methods that we usually maybe delve into when it comes to exploring the qualitative side is the case studies and what we call the process tracing, the interview and the focus groups as a method, and ethnography and participant observation, discourse and textual analysis, and comparative analysis. So I'm not going to focus on maybe like explaining what these exactly are, because the reason is my focus is more about the thinking part. Okay, so I'm not looking at the very method or the methodical or even the methodological. That's not the idea here. So my maybe when it comes to the central frame, when it comes to my presentation, is about how do we think that way, or maybe how do I think, or maybe when I collaborate with my colleagues or my friends, how do we work on it? So given that, I'm just trying to maybe like portray, in case maybe some is given that the fact that some students are over here, so they must also be introduced to the kind of the avenues and the methodical options what we are having. So given that these are some of the most important common methods that we usually make use of when it comes to the qualitative research. So when it comes to the qualitative thinking, there are certain maybe some factors that we may have to keep in mind. So the one thing, how do I look into is what are we as researchers? The one thing is that how do I see we are a sum total of our own environment. There's so many things that keep influencing us, maybe shaping us, reconfiguring us, recalibrating us. So given that, it's very important that where are we? I mean, what are we? So even our identity at times matters. Okay, for example, if you look at a problem, okay, even at times gender does matter. Okay, I don't look at the same problem, maybe how a woman researcher might be looking at an issue. So that's why even the lived experiences truly count when it comes to the problems of what we call the qualitative thinking. So the sum total of the environment, even where I'm placed, maybe now I belong to Tambara. Maybe it's not the same way, maybe how somebody from maybe Jammu and Kashmir would be thinking about an issue. So that's why our experiences truly count, even the way how do we approach a topic. So what are we as a researcher is the first question maybe we need to delve into when it comes to the qualitative thinking as a problem. So when it comes to another problem is about usually what people think, okay, because even I have got a lot of advices from people, not from our background, like, okay, maybe since I'm yet to do my PhD, okay, so maybe you can start working on a topic. You will get your guide later. You can do that because what do you have to do? Nothing much. You just have to write. Okay, the one problem is because I'm very empathetic about them because I understand that they don't know what is qualitative research. That's why they keep giving me such wrong advices. The issue here is when it comes to how do we approach the qualitative research, yes, there are some topics probably okay where we can do only with the help of a desk research, which is again not easy. But at the same time, okay, when it comes to how do I approach qualitative research, is more about the primary sources too. I mean, the primary data predominantly. So the field work is a very important, maybe a question that we have to keep thinking because most of my works, okay, do involve, okay, what we call the field work and the engagement with the field, the barefoot approach, all these matter too. And which is sometimes we, and very specifically, I even mentioned the term humbling over there because often we think thanks to our academic ego and maybe the arrogance to we think that we know what is happening. Okay, when we just go to the field, we just assume that things are going to be, yes, what we expected, but not really. Many a times, those who have been the field work would know that the fieldwork experience is always a humbling experience. Okay, we just go with a lot of assumptions, but the data what we get will be completely different from what we have assumed, or sometimes we often even like reframe our own hypothesis. So that's why qualitative thinking is not that predictable too. Okay, because that's why when it comes to desk research, yes, there are some topics feasible, but not every topic in every discipline too. So many a time, the reality is we have to focus on fieldwork as well if you want to truly get out into what we call the knowledge production as a process. And again, the another third factor, what I want to keep in is when it comes to we're all in the academia, and I believe that most of us are apparently from the college ecosystem, and we know what is the idea of a university and the idea of a college. So inherently there are some challenges. Okay, how do we really get into, and be it any sciences for that matter, be it natural sciences, computational sciences, life sciences. So we all have a lot of challenges, like what we call the infrastructure could be a problem. So many times sabbatical could be a problem because when it comes to field work, the first thing is that maybe we have to get into the field, right? So we need leave. No, we have to get maybe whether what kind of a leave we can maybe rely on. Is it going to be an OD or maybe casual leave? There's so many factors too that keeps like shaping even what kind of a topic we focus on. Because the reason is that what I'm trying to club up with is the fourth factor too. Even the time and space of location when it comes to the researchers matter. For instance, maybe my true area, or when it comes to, again, I'm bringing in the lived experience as a factor. The true area, maybe what I really want to focus on when it comes to my research focus would be something what I call the AFPAC, which means Afghanistan, Pakistan. That's because I'm from political science and I'm more into international relations, conflict studies, South Asian security, maritime. This is the area I focus on. But if you look at that, my predominant focus ever since my student days has been to know more about the AFPAC as a region. Okay, like Afghanistan and Pakistan. Okay, but especially when I started off my research, maybe as a student researcher and also later as a career researcher, as a faculty too, I slowly started on with the AFPAC as a region. Much of my works have been on those lines, but slowly things have been changing. Okay, the one thing is that probably my introduction, again, I would say that I have been in my, I would say the formative years of my research as a career, I have been more into what I call the desk research too. That's one thing I could have been doing, especially being as a student and everything, because we have a lack of resources and everything. But since I got into maybe, since I joined the department as a faculty, and things have been changing thanks to my colleagues, especially like Dr. Vidya, okay, who really introduced me more into what we call the field work. So then I was just, because field work, because I have been a part of different projects with her and the publications with her. So where I truly understood that maybe we have to look more into the context of fieldwork too. So that's what something that it really impacted me. So given that, imagine if I want to do a fieldwork, okay, something related to my true area of interest, what I like called the Pakistan, Afghanistan. Is it truly feasible for me to go? Maybe feasible, yes, but there are different factors as well. Because I remember, in fact, maybe a few years ago, I was part of a borderlands project where I was trying to study the Indo-Bangladesh border management. Okay, I have made 2 visits to the petrol post in Bangladesh, I mean, near the Indo-Bangladesh border in West Bengal, right? So I could not complete the project due to different factors because I'm from Chennai, I'm in Chennai. So traveling there, the resources is a problem, coordination, okay, how often I can go there. So what happened is that, so even where you are, okay, what kind of an institution you're part of, okay, whether you have even sufficient leave to go, all these truly matter when it comes to the qualitative aspects. That's why even to think about the topics that you want to choose, then you may have to consider what we call the systemic factor, not the systematic, but rather systemic factors too. So there's one thing is that one of the parallel interests I had over the years of my career was the maritime, okay, which made more sense to me, or maybe which prompted me to work more on those lines because I'm in Chennai. I'm in a coastal state. I'm in a coastal city. Okay, I'm at the maybe what I call at the edge of what we call the Bay of Bengal. So there's a much of a scope for me, and also maybe I can focus more on those lines too when it comes to the field work and everything. Because maybe at least for the, I don't know, maybe at least for the next few years, I don't know whether I can even visit maybe if I want to do a field study about Pakistan or even Afghanistan. That's a reality. So that's why we even need to look at the time and space as a factor when it comes to the qualitative thinking. And given the qualitative thinking through, when it comes to any research, we look forward to new ideas. That's the most important thing. And at times, unconventional is the very key. No, that's one thing what I truly look forward to, personally speaking, because every research matters, every idea matters. But at the same time, the unconventional is something what really truly makes something really qualitative when it comes to research aspects. And we often use the word out of the box thinking. And again, maybe philosophically, I can even question, should there be box at all? Okay, should we even go beyond that? Even why should there be a box at all is the problem? Because to me, the box is more like the defined boundaries of a discipline. So there's a one question I'll be addressing to in the coming few slides. So we may even have to think beyond the box. Maybe the post-box thinking is probably what we need. And yet another concern what we have regarding the qualitative aspect is the complex causality, or what is also called the causal complexity. Because we don't have one just cause. Because if you look at research, or even if you look at mostly, we see that we try to understand the causal relationship when it comes to variables. So if you look at that, is maybe a question like maybe what we call poverty. Okay, so
aloo jeera beda aloo capsicum
ma'am, can you pause like mute your audio, ma'am? Thank you so much. So if you look at the maybe a topic or maybe a concern or a socio-economic phenomenon, like maybe in a political phenomenon like poverty. So what causes poverty? There are multiple answers to it. There's not just one variable. That's why if you see conceptually, we don't even just look at poverty merely as an economic problem, but rather if you look at some of the most recent indices coming in, we call it the multidimensional poverty. Okay, so that means that there are different aspects that keep shaping the idea of poverty. So that's why we have so many variables in play. So that's why at times we have a problem of subjectivity coming into the picture, because what is poverty to me is not a poverty for person X, Y, Z. So that's a reality. So we have so many variables to deal with. So given that the causal complexity is one of the major challenges that we have to tackle when it comes to the qualitative thinking. And again, we don't think alike when it comes to disciplines, because when it comes to our disciplinary training, now if you look at everybody for that matter, as a faculty or as a researcher, some of you might be from economics, some of you from sociology, maybe anthropology, like geography and whatnot. That's a reality. So we all have our own way of dealing with our own topics as well. So that's why if you look at qualitative thinking, is also preconditioned by the introduction to the disciplines what we have been trained during our higher education landscape. So given that it differs with disciplines, and also how we even when it comes to manuscript submission, because one of the most important aspects about knowledge production is that it must be published, because that's what the verification, maybe that's how you validate your finding, because things must be published after all. So again, how do you, because if you look at the manuscript, there are of various nature. Maybe it could be a book, it could be a book chapter, okay, maybe an article, okay, sometimes it could be maybe merely a commentary, okay, so it could be anything, okay, sometimes opinion pieces. So there are different varieties of when it comes to the even what we call the manuscripts. So we don't think in the same way even for the different varieties of manuscripts what we're having. So everything demands a different way of thinking, a different way of writing. So when I look at writing, it is not merely the writing of the findings, because in social sciences or even in political sciences or even humanities for that matter, or even generally if you want to maybe talk about terms like even arts or whatever, when it comes to write is to think, because that's how we frame the idea. Because writing is not merely like summing up or maybe just noting down the findings alone, but as you keep writing, that's how the ideas develop too. So there's so many differences when it comes to even the manuscript as a problem. And at times collaborations may matter. if I'll be looking at that problem too from my perspective, because at times when it comes to a topic of your passion, if you want to really cover that, at times you may have to collaborate with other, maybe like let's just like Sridhar was trying to say. This is also an opportunity for us to network as well, because networking matters at times. Okay, we may have to maybe like connect with scholars from different regions and even from different topics, or even maybe like different disciplines too. If you want to truly maybe like pursue the topic that you truly want to have it. So I'll be covering that part too in one of the slides. And another question is about the predictability, because every discipline in the world exists to predict things. Okay, because every discipline has its own goal. Maybe be it physics we talk about, whether it mathematics we talk about, maybe social sciences, or maybe political science, economics. They're all trying to something like a predict something, like a predicting a behavior. So the predictability is really a challenge when it comes to social sciences. That's one problem, because so like I told you about the complex causality. The one thing again I wanted to keep in mind is that the purpose of the very presentation is not like something like anti-mathematical, not at all. We need math as well. Okay, because the one thing I often believe in that is that the quantity has its own quality too. But the only thing is, mathematics has its limitations as a tool, not as a discipline, but as a tool when it comes to our disciplines. There are some problems when it comes to the predictability. So I'm moving on to the next slide. So I just wanted to maybe you to be having maybe a glance at this problem. Okay, this is a book that came a few years ago. I don't know, some of you might be knowing Dr. D.M. Jain. Okay, he was actually a scholar of international relations from India. Okay, and he actually published this book a few years ago. One of the suggested readings when it comes to our department as well, because some of us are teaching international relations to our students, both at the UG and the PG level, the geopsychology theory of international relations. So I'm not trying to look at what is inside the book in terms of the content of the theory, apparently what Professor Jain has proposed. I'm just looking at the project challenges what he mentioned in the work. Okay, so just trying to look at, okay, many of us would be, maybe as scholars in social science might be undergoing. So he's just looking at things like the lack of financial, infrastructure, institutional support. Okay, he's also mentioning some bodies around, right? So I know this is very much there. It's not like a personal note or anything, but it's one of the first few pages of the book. It's very open. And apparently it's also published by one of the globally renowned publishers too, if you look at the book apparently. Okay, so he's just looking at the challenges he faced. Okay, and also when it comes to resources, be it money, okay, when it comes to research assistance, right? So finally, he's just trying to say that it's completely his work. Okay, the kind of the painstaking effort, okay, that we truly have to maybe undergo if you want to come out with the proper social science research, right? So it's not merely about the publication, not merely about the thinking, okay, but rather there are some systemic challenges as well, okay, when it comes to how do you truly navigate the very world of social sciences. So coming to the next slide. As yet another thing, I just wanted to know, probably, Harry Mon Jacob is one of the globally renowned scholars. Okay, he was a JNU professor until a few months ago. Now he's with another private university based in Delhi. So if you see that, okay, it's one of the, I'm a big fan of him. Okay, and also something like a work I really wanted to do, okay, since my student days. Okay, I have been a big fan of his works, especially his works on Pakistan, because I always thought that maybe someday I want to visit Pakistan for academic reasons. Okay, I want to really study because I'm also looking at topics like civil military relations, military change, some of my areas of interest. So if you look at the book here, it's more like a travelogue, okay, and also academic too at the same time, that how he managed to go into the Pakistan's military headquarters in Rawalpindi. Okay, I don't know how much I would rather say that the first maybe Indian professor, okay, when it comes to probably in the post-independent era, to make a visit and even talk to the Pak military officers within their maybe like the headquarters there. So it's more like a field work. Okay, how many of us get to be having this opportunity? Okay, that's a challenge is what we're having, right? So when it comes to that, that's why even networking might matter. Okay, expertise that we keep on building over the years matter. Okay, how do we even get into it? If you look at that, we know the conflictual relationships between countries. Sorry, so this is the reality here. So even to do the field work, it's not that easy. Okay, sometimes we make compromises. Okay, even when it comes to the topics that you truly want to pursue. So I'm keeping that point of view in mind when it comes to like my presentation. So again, I just wanted you to be introduced to the fact that, again, because one of the things I want to demystify is that when it comes to social sciences, people often think we don't know math or anything. I'm not just to boast here, but rather, okay, one of my MA dissertation that I have done back in my 2017 when I finished my master's, my last semester. Okay, so my work is completely mathematical. If you look at the dissertation I have done, okay, I was just looking at something on outer space. Okay, China, India, MSc topic I have chosen. Okay, so if you look at that too, okay, even since student days, MCC or even our department, okay, is very much open to even like how we can even delve into the mathematical side of it. For example, even when it comes to one of my GE papers, general elective that we offer at the UG level, the option I have chosen was space science from the Department of Mathematics. So this is again very important that we need to be like believe in the power of what we call the interdisciplinarity, because we should not be like restricting ourselves to the confines of what we call the disciplinary silos anymore. So it's not that we are not good at math, but rather a choice we are forced to make because of our interest in the topic. So not everything can be quantifiable. That's the one problem what we are having. So there are some other tools. So that's why something that one of the confidence maybe that we truly require when we truly look at the question of what we call the social sciences. So again, for example, Sridhar was also looking at the challenges when it comes to experiments and labs. That's again a systemic problem. Okay, for example, let me tell you from my discipline perspective. Okay, the Indian political science is yet to grow. Okay, how we truly look at that. Now changes are happening anyway. Okay, for example, if you look at the West, I'm not praising the West, but I'm just trying to go for a comparative view. Okay, how even decades ago, how they have gone beyond. Okay, if you look at the reality of how they have captured the spirit of experimentation in political science. Okay, so some of the books I just wanted to be like to be having a glance at. Okay, how they have done over the years. So how experiments are truly part of the political and the social discourses. Some of the books again when it comes to like machine learning for experiments in social sciences, and even some of the top I would say Ivy League institutions like the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So they have their own even political experiments research lab, in fact. So that's why if you look at that, how even the time and space truly impact the way how we are looking at research and how we choose our topic. So everything does matter. So that's the one thing I want you to keep in mind. So there's another thing probably I just want you to be keeping it as when it comes to the very framework of my presentation is the disciplinarity versus indisciplinarity. When I say indisciplinarity, what I mean here is that breaking away from the disciplinary silos. Okay, because the table what I have given is actually an outcome of a workshop. Okay, my colleague Dr. Vidya had conducted back in 2023, thanks to a project fund she has received from the Deanery, Research and Development MCC, on a topic called the Transforming Madras Christian College into a Transdisciplinary Knowledge Hub. So there was a 2-day workshop that happened as part of the project she done. So I was a participant in that project. So we had so many like scholars from eminent scholars who are focusing on these questions came from different institutions around the world. So I was just observing and looking at the trends, how we are truly looking at the question of academics. Okay, for example, if you look at the one thing I wanted to keep in as a disclaimer is that the terms are still evolving. Okay, it's not that we have some hard and fast maybe rules when it comes to how do you define it. Okay, you may disagree with this view. It's very open. Okay, so even I don't agree with the perspectives I understood as well. Okay, that's one thing we have to know, because why these ideas are still evolving. Okay, because we can't have maybe I would say maybe some fixed definitions. Still, we are yet to reach out to maybe an academic maturity, okay, to properly define these problems. But starting from the first term could be like interdisciplinary or monodisciplinary. We know that that's what we are mostly into. When I just sticking on to my own discipline is either mono/intra. That's one problem. And off-disciplinary is something becoming very much an important terminology these days, that we go beyond the disciplines completely and rejecting the academic frames completely. Okay, and this is some of the, I'm just trying to give you some basic observations. That's the thing I'm trying to do. And multidisciplinary again is that when the multiple disciplines are trying to look at the same problem. Okay, that is the meaning here. That means we have the disciplines together looking at the same problem, and they're not trying to reject their, okay, what we call the silos. That means silos are existing, but it's apparently being there side by side. Okay, then cross-disciplinary, which means you're looking at one discipline's problem through an other discipline's lens. That is cross-disciplinary. Okay, and then it comes to interdisciplinary, which means synthesizing the multiple fields, which means you are also going to combine the methods of multiple disciplines together to observe the phenomenon that you want to study. Okay, and transdisciplinary is an emerging term. In fact, Dr. Vidya's project was on that topic itself, which means you're trying to go beyond the discipline itself, like disciplinary. Okay, you're going beyond that towards a unified framework. And yet another terms that I keep evolving to anti-disciplinary, which means you're opposing the disciplinary norms at all, because we know that our every discipline that we are very much, I would say, very conservative, orthodox, very traditional we are. Okay, that's how we are operating too. No, we have our own silos. Okay, we often, how do we look at other disciplines? We think that ours is always a superior. So even there are some, I would say, academic philosophies emerging that you have to be anti-disciplinary. Okay, should knowledge be priority or your discipline the priority? That is the question here. So that's why it's also more like an epistemic resistance. Okay, so that's an important terminology to know, the way how do you look at the knowledge as well. That's very important. So alterdisciplinary is also the way how you look into the alternates. Okay, that's a base is still evolving, okay, as a term, which means that we are trying to reconfigure the way how you have been looking at, okay, all the remaining aspects of when it comes to disciplinary problems. So it's like reconfiguring what we call into the alternate. What are the other options what we are having? Okay, should there be even a disciplinary angle at all? It's something more than that. That's a question we are trying to navigate. And post-disciplinary is that it is like an expected stage, and some people believe, yes, we are already into that. Some people say we are not yet to be there, which means that the peak of a discipline. Okay, that means that the stage when a discipline is maturing enough, okay, that there will be a phase called the post-disciplinary. We are yet to reach that stage. Okay, it's more like a philosophical anticipation too. It's more like in the predicting into the future, maybe how the knowledge production might be looking into the future. And undisciplinary is again the way we are dismantling the silos entirely, which means imagine there is only one unified discipline in the world. Maybe I don't know what is even should be called. Maybe should we go back to the older terms like philosophy? Everybody is a philosopher, right? So it's more like again a forecast what some academics are trying to make in looking into how we should be even looking into the disciplines and how should be even approaching what we call the research aspects too. So again, coming to the very important aspect regarding my presentation is I'll be just quickly going through as well because we have a time shortage of the paucity of time. So the one thing here is that is everything a topic of research? Okay, maybe to me, yes. Okay, anything can be talking about research. It could be anything that maybe, I don't know, when you're sitting maybe on your chair and you're looking at your system or your phone, even phone is a topic of research, or the screen that you're looking at is a topic of research. I am a topic of research whom you're listening to, right? It be it art or science, even you can study about the science itself, right? Like be it culture, movies, songs, nature, stars. Again, what not is a problem, okay? So when it comes to social sciences, this kind of a flexibility it offers. So I don't want you to see it as something like something like a weakness, not a weakness at all, but rather it's a way of how do you like trying to like decode the world around you. So to me, anything could be a topic of research. That's how I look at that. So the one thing again, I just want you to be, most of you would be knowing as well, okay, why I'm a little bit cautioned about what we call the maybe the very much requirement of sticking on to the qualitative approach. Probably you know this what we call the McNamara fallacy. Okay, McNamara, we know Robert McNamara, the former U.S. Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. Because if you look at I probably you know, I hope there are also historians in this group. Okay, so if you look at the history, we know it was a war between what the Vietnam is called the American War. That's another way how they have been looking at it in a way. Okay, so if you really see here. The assumption by Robert McNamara was that higher the number of casualties on the Vietnamese side, the higher the probability the US will win the war. That means more number of deaths on the Vietnamese side, and more the higher the chances the US will win the war. Okay, and apparently he placed his hypothesis, okay, maybe as a projection for the US's winning in the war was based on completely mathematics. That means it's very logical too, if you really see that. No more people are dying on the Vietnamese side, which means more number of more the chances the US will win the war. But finally, who won the war? Okay, so which means that finally it's a bunch of farmers, what we call who are actually a deeply agrarian society. The Vietnam has been, right? So who actually won the war was nothing but the Vietnam, right? So which means that when you're trying to deal with the qualitative aspects, what we call the political, social, or economic world or the cultural world, we can't reduce everything merely to numbers. Because like I told you, the complex causality, because the one problem what McNamara has failed in doing was that he forgot to inject maybe the factors like the perseverance, emotions. No, so these are the factors too that we have to truly look at. And he forgot to look into what we call the lived experience, the authentic lived experiences of people. So this is something maybe a one cautioning, maybe I want August audience to keep in mind. So coming to the next slide. Again, it's another example. Okay, like back in 2022, the Oxford University, their Department of Mathematics had come out with a mathematical model of predicting. Just an example I just wanted to give you. Okay, like they're trying to predict who will be winning the World Cup that year. Okay, that the last match will be between Brazil and Belgium, and Brazil will win. And finally, we know who actually won. So which means that there are some limitations when it comes to the predictability part, when it comes to even things like in sport. Okay, though there are what we call the mathematical aspects to the sports at the same time. Okay, but when it comes to being a game, there are some other rules or some norms that truly decide the outcome of such an event. So that's one thing. And that's why, again, some of the first of the fallacy, how people really get into maybe a misunderstanding here is that measure whatever can be easily measured, or disregard what can't be like easily measured, presume what can be measured isn't important, or say what can be measured doesn't exist. So that's why if you really see that thanks to the behavioral movement and all, especially in social science and political science, we would know, okay, people were often cited to be like sitting at the ivory tower without being a touch of the reality. Because the question of measurability has been very much central to the natural sciences, yes. And even, yes, measurability matters when it comes to social sciences too, yes, including political science. But the issue here is that there's something that's a post-mathematics, maybe a way about how we have to look into the social sciences. So we need to do away with this obsession, okay, but doesn't mean that, okay, I'm have a disregard for mathematics at all, or maybe what the mathematical tools. That's not the idea here, because even I make use of mathematics, like I told you, even starting from a master's dissertation, in fact, right? But again, there are certain things which are not amenable to the numbers. That's a problem here. So to think qualitatively is to predict what quantitative approach slash the method cannot. So that's a very maybe the one of the most important maybe the fundamental tenet when it comes to my presentation. Okay, so just as a one maybe a small exercise. I'm not expecting you to respond. Okay, but just something what I came across. I would say maybe 3 years ago. If you look at the screenshot again here. Okay, this was a Zomato notification. Okay, that popped up on my phone screen back on 14th August 2023. And this is something, a template I have made use of when it comes to one of my classes on research methodology and fieldwork for my third year undergraduate students. So the question, the thing that came on my screen was, is it still street food if you have it in bed? Okay, that was a one, maybe an advertisement, like a notification that came on. Okay, that was very intriguing to me. I thought a lot about that notification. Okay, these are the questions I just had in mind, because I'm just trying to, like I told you, it's about how do you qualitatively think. Okay, that is the central framework when it comes to my presentation. So even now, it's for fun. Apparently, I have done. It's mostly about the fun. Okay, but what I have done here is, okay, I even, okay, for the fun's sake, even created a title for a potential research paper if I ever do. I'm not going to do that. That's not my area at all. Okay, but this is something what I have looked at. Okay, so the first question apparently I had in my mind was that, is it merely the space of cooking that makes food a street food? Okay, that was the first question I had. So what do you mean by street food? Is it about like it being cooked on the street? So now the question, now that I had it again, the second question was that, is it necessary that the food must also be consumed on the street? Okay, which is very much relevant to, okay, the very pop-up notification I got from Zomato, right? So I'm just thinking, so it's very important, I would say that maybe a pop-up notification came to me that really like realign the way I was understanding the nature of food, or even the way people are cooking and everything. Okay, is it still street food if the item is consumed within a vehicle or another shop on the same street? Or is it street food only meant to be served, not delivered? Okay, because Zomato, if you now see that, they're delivering street food as well. So the question basically for me was that, if it is delivered at your doorstep, is it still street food or not? Or if you is it still street food only if you have it on the road itself, or even that road itself? What if you move to another street? Is it still street food? I don't know. Okay, so all these questions I had. So that's a questions I felt. If you see here, if the food is consumed on another street, why will it be the street food X? Okay, if there's a specific radius, which means that, okay, do you have to be bound within a specific radius? Again, max is coming into here. Is it like still should I be within like 100-meter radius within the shop where I bought it from? Is it then what I call the street food? Okay, so all these questions that really popped up in my mind. Okay, so I'm just trying to tell you maybe how I even engage in some kind of a self-made some kind of a qualitative thinking exercises. Okay, so that's why I'm very complicated with the terms. Like maybe if I ever write a paper, I'm not going to write, like I told you, the spatial complex causality and mobility structures in cuisine development, actor heterogeneity and temporal liminality in the ontology of street food. Okay, just for the fun sake, I did that, right? So I just want to complicate, like I told you, like even when it comes to doing research about complicating things, it could be maybe a normal object. Okay, that's what qualitative research does to us, right? We become very complicated as well. So this is the way maybe some of the exercises I keep doing, so that even I can maybe enrich my own research skills. Okay, so when it comes to the yet another important aspect when it comes to qualitative research, as far as I am concerned, is that the everydayness. Okay, so the one thing, like I told you, the time and space is a problem. The one thing I often do is that connecting one's academic discipline and the area of interest or expertise, okay, with the everyday phenomena. Okay, so not necessary that everybody has to do it. Okay, because also the one disclaimer I wanted to have is everything is everyday phenomenon too. That's something you should repeat. Whether we talk about gravity, we talk about, yes, I'm experiencing gravity. Okay, atoms, I am walking atom to me. Okay, or the pen I'm using is everything. Everything is an everyday phenomenon. Okay, but I'm just trying to look at some of the select publications as well as a sample here, and also even the publications by others in some relevant disciplines. okay, how they have been looking at the problems around them in a similar fashion. So, for example, if you really see the World Water Day, okay, so I was trying to make the presentation. Okay, yesterday only I was trying to work on my presentation. So I just randomly Googling, okay, what is 22nd March known for? Okay, so the World Water Day. So I just took a sample randomly from that, given that. Okay, so if you look at water as an object, okay, there is a mathematics of water, okay, physics of water, chemistry of water, biology of water, and more sciences if you want to look at that, right? There is a water, be it whether we talk about the fluid dynamics or whether you want to call it the dihydrogen monoxide. Okay, so there is a way how even different sciences or even different disciplines look at water. So similarly, there is a politics of water. There's an economics of water, sociology of water, anthropology of water, geography of water, right? So there's a way how even we can all look at the maybe the one single object. Okay, it's as simple as how we drink, right? So given that, how I am looking, maybe probably how I would look at water from my perspective, thanks to my disciplinary training, would be that maybe water as a source of conflict. Okay, because like I told you, I focus on those kind of questions. Like I told you about maybe Indo-Pak as a problem. Okay, I look at water sharing as an issue, right? So water as a source of a conflict, maybe water as a casualty of a conflict, or maybe as a weapon of conflict, okay, or even a collateral damage of conflict. Okay, again, like I told you, I'm just trying to give you the perspective from my discipline. And that's why if you see that there are some notions in social sciences, what we call the water security, even hydro security. Okay, and again, yet another connected, maybe an idea can be what we call the maritime security, what I am specializing in too, right? This is one of my chief areas of interest. And to me, even at times, the quantity of water matters, because to me, the bottle of water doesn't matter to me. But rather, my focus is on if the water is enough there to be constituting a sea or an ocean, then I am pitching in. That's what I like there. That's how I like to relate to it, because why I want to know how the states are behaving on the sea or the oceans, and how the sea and oceans are impacting the state behavior, be it conflict, whether the conflict on the land, how it impacts the sea, or even the conflict on sea as a problem to me. So this is how I want to relate to water, right? So anything that you look around in some way or other, we can actually do it. Okay, so starting from that, if you look at how I look at water, it even changes my perspective about how do I even address my research problems. For example, this is the way how we usually look at
Yeah,
the
Adarsh, just a minute. Just you can just go a little bit slower because you are too fast.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
going slow.
you can just a little bit slower.
Sure,
No
sir.
problem. Thank you.
Sure, sir. So many slides, so that's why it's going a little faster. Sorry for that. Okay. So if you look at the world map here, we know usually we are all introduced to map. We all know the map as well. So usually we have the north on the top view. Okay, this is something what we all have, right? So if when it comes to somebody who's actually working or specializing on maritime security, it's a completely different view. For example, when I'm working on, because maps matter to me, okay, because I make use of Google Earth or even Google Maps for that matter, or even the physical map of whatever you have in the department or the wall or whatever, right? So it completely changes the way how do we look at that. Because since I am focusing on maritime security, because I want to know what is happening on water. Okay, even water as a method of thinking, ocean as a method. That's how I look into it, which means if I want to know how the states are behaving there, or if you look at the Strait of Hormuz as a problem, we know we're all maybe what we call the victims, okay, or maybe the casualty when it comes to LPG as an issue these days, right? So for me, how do I look at would be that this is the way how I'll be looking, because I want to have, okay, what I call the south on the top view. That means Tamil Nadu is becoming the extreme top when it comes to how do I look at India. Okay, because this is how I would be looking at. So which means when it comes to the qualitative approach, it even rekindles our mind, and it even re-engineers the way how do I look at the object, or even everyone for that matter, right? So that's why it's very critical that, okay, when it comes to the very qualitative thinking, it even changes the way how you approach the problem. So that's why it's very important that those who are working on maritime or in such related issues, okay, they are known to be believing in the way how they look at the map even changes. So that's why if you look at the, again, one of the examples I wanted to give is that one of the publications I have done is a book chapter I wrote for the National Maritime Foundation. Those who know would know that it's a track 1.5 think tank of the Indian Navy affiliated to the Defense Ministry, Government of India. So a chapter that I have done, and I have also I have highlighted something here, okay, to the right if you see the 60,176 kilometers. Okay, if you really see that, it is just one exercise of like counting. Okay, for example, if you see, those who know Shanghai Cooperation Organization would know that it's a continental group. Okay, it started off as a group of countries who are completely landlocked, which means they have no coastal, okay, region. Okay, that was the idea. Okay, so what happened, okay, when I was writing this article, okay, I mean, the reason why I wrote an article was that, okay, so if you see many years ago, many decades ago, Russia and China were already part of the SEO, okay, but by 2017, around that time, okay, India and Pakistan also became members of SEO. Okay, which means at that time, now that the membership and all has changed, okay, if you look at the SEO as an organization. But back at that time, what happened was that the 50% of the members of SEO were having coastal regions, which means they were all littoral states. Okay, they were all coastal states apparently. Okay, so what happened was that the one thing I did was counting the coastline of all the four maritime states within the SEO, which means Russia, okay, China, India, and Pakistan, and which came together to what we call the 60,170 kilometers. It's mainly an addition I have done. But this time, what I'm trying to tell you here is that even when it comes to the qualitative thinking, okay, we still need to be having a bit of a mathematical mind. Okay, even as simple as maybe like an addition, okay, what we are doing. Okay, so it is this idea that the 60,170 kilometer, okay, of coastline for the entire SEO as an organization, what I proposed was that something maybe like maybe an unconventional way. Because why? I was trying to say that the Shanghai Cooperation organizations, the continental identity is drifting. Okay, it's being diluted. It is becoming more maritime in nature. Okay, that was a prediction I was trying to make when I wrote this book chapter for the NMF. Okay, so which means that when I say qualitative again, it's not like completely abandoning the world of numbers. That is not the case. Okay, we have to stick on to it. Okay, that's one thing I just wanted you to be having as an example. So again, today as we speak, okay, World Meteorological Day, and probably you must have seen many updates coming in over your social media handles and everywhere. Maybe how would I relate to it? Okay, just an example. Okay, the one question here is that a problem of water scarcity. Okay, we know that water is really a problem. We know the freshwater availability is really a challenge. We talk about sustainability. Okay, it's really a challenge, be it Chennai or anywhere in the country. Okay, so if you look at that, the scarcity of water, how it even impacts different lives. Okay, probably you must have heard about this concept, especially if you're from sociology or such disciplines, probably you would know the concept of water wives. Okay, this is a practice in some parts of India. If for the one example I can cite about is a village, okay, Danganmal in Maharashtra, okay, where water scarcity leads to men marrying more than one woman just to fetch water. Okay, so which means that scarcity of water and how it impacts, okay, the social life of people, the economic life of people, the political life of people, and especially the gender, right? So that means water scarcity, okay, because something to do with the meteorology and everything too, no? Because what we call the rainfall matters. So there's so many factors too, okay, how it truly impacts how the social lives are being defined too. So water wives as a concept is really a challenge when it comes to around some of the rural pockets. Okay, so water scarcity even impacts different genders differently, like I told you about the lived experiences. So now this is what water scarcity does. Okay, now I'm giving you to your left as another problem. So another idea called the monsoon brides. Okay, which means more rain is also a problem. Water scarcity is also a problem. Water, okay, excess is also a problem. So here, if you look at Pakistan as a case, okay, it's an article that came last year in Al Jazeera. Okay, so where you see that the catastrophic flooding have led to the practice of having like young girls, okay, married off, okay, in Pakistan. Okay, so which means that maybe what I do understand is water scarcity is impacting a gender in a different way. Excess of water in a different way is also a problem, which means there's a gender water nexus existing. Okay, so now if I look into it, maybe I can maybe pose this question: is water patriarchal? Yes, maybe to me it makes a big question. Maybe it makes a logical question to me. On the other hand, if I'm just looking at this problem, how many liters of water make it patriarchal? Because like I told you, water scarcity is an issue. Excess of water is also an issue in a region, right? So it's not the right way to approach it. That's why we need to know, how do you bring in mathematics too into the problem, or the way, how do you frame your question? Okay, so that's why it's every day. Okay, be it water you talk about. Even now I am clubbing up two different things. Okay, like the World Water Day and the World Meteorological Day being clubbed up. Okay, how we can link things together. Okay, so yet another example again, what I want to look at is that it's actually I'm affiliated to different organizations. The one thing being the Mantra Institute for Strategic Studies. Okay, there's actually an article I have, not an article, but a special report on Afghanistan's illicit drug trafficking, especially since Taliban had taken over and they banned the practices of cultivation of opium and everything. I did a special report for this think tank based in Goa, along with my mentor, Dr. Shanti Maria D'Souza. Okay, so if you look at that, what I have highlighted here is that, okay, to your left, I have used mixed methods approach, which means for my work, I have relied on quantitative data as well in order to substantiate my claims or even our claims. And again, the collaboration, okay, and yet another term I mentioned in the qualitative thinking slide is very much important, because why? The work, what we have done also brings insights from the field work my co-author has done. Okay, if you look at the Shanti Marid, she's my mentor, and also she's also a globally renowned Afghanistan specialist. And actually, a few months before I mean, during the time when we were doing our special report, she visited Afghanistan. She was actually part of a field work, right? So if you really see that this is what happening too. So how she brings her experiences, okay, when it comes to the very substance of our report, right? So what, like I told you, what I cannot do. Okay, I'm not in a position to go to Afghanistan as of now. Okay, for different reasons, maybe political reasons, it could be maybe career as a reason, region as a reason, maybe resources could be a reason. Okay, even a leave could be a reason. So that's why even collaboration matters. Okay, that means she's bringing her own knowledge of the data, what she could bring forth, okay, for the purpose of the special report I have done. So that's why even collaboration matters when it comes to social sciences, given the area of interest. Like I told you, I want to focus always on Afghanistan, Pakistan academically. Okay, so I don't want to abandon that region, though I'm on a different plane altogether now. So one of the reasons why I'm still academically obsessed and I want to keep exploring the topic maybe till date. Okay, so now if you hear why one of the most important aspects when it comes to the mixed method, what I how could relate here was that the one observation what we found in our report was that as the opium production, since Taliban imposed a ban on it, okay, what has happened here is the opium production has decreased. But what has happening in Afghanistan now is that the child marriage is increasing, which means more poverty, because if you really see that the Afghan economy is traditionally very much built on or even relying on what we call the opium production, because opium is not only seen as an illicit drug, but rather it is also a requirement for what we call the pharmaceutical purposes and everything. So if you really see that since the production has gone down, okay, many families are marrying off. Okay, the girls in their families in early age, like what we call the child marriage is increasing because one social problem is diminishing at the same time. Okay, so this is how complex, okay, the very socio-economic reality is. And especially, again, the one common thread what we have about the all the three cases now is the gender. Okay, how women or maybe the girls are apparently becoming a victim of three different problems, be it opium we talk about, be it floods we talk about, or whether we talk about merely a water bottle, maybe, is the one question here. So that's one thing I wanted to keep in mind. Again, if you want to look at my Valentine's Day, like February 14th, okay, so it's something very maybe globally celebrated day, in fact, right? Even that we can do. Okay, if you want to focus on human emotions as simple as love. Okay, this is again the two chapters, because I teach a paper called Contemporary Political Ideologies in this semester. Okay, so especially when it comes to topics on socialism, okay, when I'm looking at some things like authoritarian ideologies, especially authoritarian systems like even China and Cuba as an example, this is one of the suggested readings from my side for the undergraduate class. Okay, it's an international book of love, and this book is very interesting. I think it runs to like more than 1,000 pages. Okay, 1,200 odd pages, I believe. Like how different scholars from different fields have come together and how they look into the problem of love even. Okay, it's a very interesting chapter if you say love in China, with how the communist ideology is shaping human relationships there. Okay, and here on to your extreme right, you have another book chapter on from the same volume on how the love is being redefined in the contemporary Cuba. Okay, so that's why even it is as simple as maybe a question of maybe a human emotion like love can be looked at from different angles when it comes to the qualitative research. Okay, I'm a big fan of maybe Christopher Nolan. We know he's a renowned director known for like creating some of the best movies, like maybe The Inception or maybe the Tenet or maybe Interstellar, right? So if you are deeply maybe ingrained with maybe so much into time as a factor, there is an option again. This is one book I have read, I finished very recently, The Politics of Deep Time. Okay, so how the politics is being linked to the question of deep times, more like in the astronomical length it is taking being to. Okay, what we call the state, what would be the future of state. It's very interesting. I would really recommend this very much. It's open access to. Okay, I would read. It's a small book, like I think 110 pages or something. Okay, if you're obsessed with time, yes, you can do that too. You can make a magic out of that book, or maybe it's such as topics too. Okay, are you a pet lover? You can club that as well. Okay, there's a one trend again happening in my own field, like international relations, is that animalizing international relations, which means how we're trying to bring on the non-human animals as an important variable in understanding the interstate relationship. Okay, so that means anything can be clubbed up. That's why the everydayness is what I'm looking at. Okay, so given here again, the one problem is whether theory doesn't matter or not. Okay, because sometimes some of our works are very much theory guided. We apply theory, and sometimes our work contribute to theory building also. Okay, so many of the people would think that okay, like people think it's just for the introvert. They don't want to be in touch with people. They don't want to go into field work, right? That's not the case anyway. Even field work, apparently, such studies do lead to theory building. It's for everyone. It's not for the people who have an aversion or maybe to be with the socially being with people. It's for everyone. Okay, if you really see that. So theories matter. And I'll be giving you 2 examples to that, how even theory matters when it comes to the qualitative research in my own way. We know, and there'll be another special session on theory later as well. So for example, the one work we have done along with my colleague again, Dr. Vidya, and my colleague, Professor Kiran, who will be speaking tomorrow, okay, on another session, that how we worked on daily commuting as a site of qualitative inquiry. For example, those who are in Tamperam and those who are not in Tamperam, okay, for their information, there's an Air Force base with whom we share our borders as a campus. Okay, and there is an IAF road. Okay, it's actually a road connecting our Tambaram Velachery main road to the Air Force base, in fact. Okay, so what we have done is we have worked on, that's a road we usually take to come to campus or even come out of campus when we go back to our home. And sometimes how do we take up, maybe when we get our break time, when we go for having some tea or even a juice, this is the place that we usually hang around. Okay, just a road which is actually on the one side of the campus. So what we have done is how we have looked at this road, what we call the IAF road, okay, from a military point of view. Like I told you, some of us are working on the conflict as a topic. Okay, some of us are working on gender as an area. And in fact, like I told you, I am also into an area called the civil military relations. So like I told you, our location matters. Okay, maybe I don't know whether I can often go to Delhi, and whether I can keep doing a field work, or whether I can truly understand whether I can go to borders always. Like I told you, I really feel when it comes to, sir.
This is Ashik here. If you
Yes, sir.
can start winding up, we'll have some time for
Yes, I'll
discussion.
finish soon, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, quickly, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so if you look at that, like I told you, the Bangladesh, the border, the management as a topic, it was a really failure from my side. I could not take it forward because of my the lack of time, the resources as a problem. So, but I never want to give up my area, because also, like I told you, the fieldwork has become very integral to my work as well. So, given that, I just looked at our own neighboring road and how we have injected a military civilian lens to it and how we explore the topic. And we were literally applying Rose McGarry's the linear military landscape as a theoretical framework, and how we looked at the road, and we have published one piece out of that. And we have also relied on archival research as well, because MCC has a dedicated archives where it hosts a lot of works ever since the Scottish missionaries have come. So we have even given help from Dr. Merlin, who is actually in charge of archives from Department of History. So she also really helped us with even finding some important data, even tracing the history of the road. So this is again a few pages from our work we have done, which was published last year. So yet another way of looking at the qualitative research could be the hobbies. Okay, how can your hobby be knowledge production? The one thing again I published with along with the Dr. Vidya and even Rahul again, how we have a liking for stargazing. And it's again in MCC culture. For example, Department of Mathematics and even Department of Physics often conduct a stargazing and moon gazing days at times. So if you release, it's part of the MCC culture too. So how we converted the hobbies, okay, into what we call a research paper. So what we have done is we have tried to look at the right to starlight, okay, as a third generation human right. Okay, it's also very, I would say that's a very interdisciplinary paper. And also this paper is also on the lines of theory building, okay, because we have, our work is basically contributing to theory building, not merely theory guided. Okay, for example, we have looked at even coining some new terms like astrosubaltern. Okay, to your right bottom, you might be able to see astrosubaltern as a term we have introduced here. Okay, onto your top right here, if you see that we're also framing the right to starlight, okay, when it comes like a terrestrial right, as an amphibious right, trifibious right, an extraterrestrial right, which means we are also trying to extend the scope of theorizing human rights as well, which means this work is more on the lines of theory building. Okay, and in fact, this book is, this work is also pretty much interdisciplinary. We have also derived insights from the field of astrophysics. For some sample case could be like the Olbers paradox, has something to do with how do we view the stars and everything, which really has an important role in defining how it can be human right. On the other hand, we have also relied on topics like ophthalmology. We know that it's a medical field related to the eyesight and everything. Even that has so much to do with the right to right to starlight, in fact. Okay, maybe mostly we do fieldwork as part of PhD. Okay, but there are also, it's not our work, but the sample work I'm just trying to give you. But we also rely on certain like the reflective as a method. We also rely on such topics when it comes to some of our research papers. But PhD itself could be a fieldwork. If you want to, just imagine if you look at the title here. Okay, it's very interesting. The author is trying to work on, okay, more from an introspection, from a reflective angle, and how the person has experienced, okay, the days of the doctoral thesis. Okay, which means that even your journey with your PhD could be a topic in itself if you want to truly pursue that. That's a one option. And scrolling, okay, because we know that we are all into Insta and everything. Okay, do you really scroll too much? Not a problem. There are people who are even converting that into an article. For example, if you see, okay, why do Indians cry passionately on Insta? Okay, there's a one trend we could see that, especially with a lot of filters and everything. On to your right, you can see that how people have even taken screenshots. Okay, it's more like a digital ethnography they have as a method they have relied on. Okay, so even screenshots are becoming of the comments being part of your study. Okay, the different memes and the filters and thumbnails from YouTube and everything being, okay, anything that you do can really become a topic of your research. When you're watching TV, have you seen an advertisement? Okay, something like a Maggie that we regularly use. There are even articles from a sociological point of view, okay, which are appearing when it comes to analyzing the Maggie advertisements. Okay, so this is what we, if you see that the everydayness as a project, what I mean. Okay, and also there are many new trends happening too. For example, I think most of us would know the Taylor Swift. Actually, if you really see that as a singer, as a composer, as a producer in every way, right? So there was, in fact, if you see back in 2024, the University of Melbourne, okay, the Faculty of Arts literally conducted one, like the term symposium. They conducted something called the Swiftposium. Okay, just an academic, okay, intervention only about Taylor Swift, which means that celebrities are also becoming a discipline in itself in a way. Okay, and they're becoming a phenomenon. They're a brand. We talk about Shah Rukh Khan as a brand, in fact, right? And every actor for that matter itself. So even the way how academia is looking at even celebrities. So that's why if you're a big fan of somebody, then probably you can work on that. That's why I would say that there is one journal called the Celebrity Studies, something what you can truly look at. Maybe a death studies. Okay, this is some of the important areas which are emerging too. The how people are even perceiving the idea of death. Okay, comedy, if you like that, yes, it makes sense. Probably we can look at that too. Okay, food, culture, and society. Okay, if you like about the food. Okay, if you really see very interesting, I will even go back to the earlier one. If you see the journal overview here, it says that how we can look at the comedy as a problem of cultural, social, performative, economic, and political form. This all where we can actually pitch in through our own disciplinary lenses as well. And again, just coming back to food again. Okay, the food, there's a politics of food. Okay, the food studies is an emerging area, and especially from sociological point of view, food is ideological, right? So we know, okay, how even is food perceived. So anything, if you're a foodie, then probably you can look at that. So that's why if you look at the everydayness is basically the very fundamental fulcrum when it comes to the way how you look at the qualitative research. This is going to be the last slide from my side, because if you really see something we all know, okay, probably you must have heard about the Rumsfeld metrics and Johari window. So I just merged everything together, because when it comes to the qualitative research and even any knowledge production process for that matter, there are something what we call the known knowns. Okay, the things that we know that we know. There's something called the known unknowns, the things that we know that we don't know. There's something called the unknown knowns, the things that we don't know that we know. And there's something called the unknown unknowns, which means things that we don't know that we don't know. Okay, something applicable to any discipline, right? So when it comes to the qualitative research, this is the same framework that truly applies to us. Okay, but we can improvise on it. Maybe we can improve upon it, probably through maybe through a quotient approach, and by exercising maybe some kind of qualitative thinking skills, right? And how we rework on it and how we enhance it. And accordingly, we can, anybody for that matter, because like I told you, and also as in the introduction, if you, one of the hosts was trying to say that, okay, like it's not just for the social sciences alone, but rather there are even trends that even people from natural sciences are getting into it. For example, if you look at the MIT Political Science Department, US, there's one professor named Vipin Narang. Okay, he's a globally famous a nuclear theorist, okay, like a nuclear weapons and everything from a political sense. He's a political science professor, but he's a chemical engineer. He's a chemical engineer turned professor of political science, in fact, right? So which means that, so we are no longer thinking only from a disciplinary perspective, but rather interdisciplinarity is the key. So which means if you want to tackle the knowns and the unknown as a paradigm, okay, we have to go beyond the so-called the traditional disciplinary silos as well. So with that, I will stop my presentation. Thank you for patiently listening to me. So I'm open to questions, and I will try to answer if I know the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Adarsh, for this wonderful and comprehensive presentation on qualitative thinking. And thank you for touching on various aspects of transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and interdisciplinary research, which is more important. Now we open up for some question and answer session. We have another 5 or 10 minutes. If somebody would like to ask questions, please, you can unmute and then ask questions to Professor Adarsh. Also, one more announcement: the feedback form link is given in the chat board. Chat. Those who would like to fill in, please do fill in. Feel free to just open up and then ask questions. Dr. Adesh, would you like to look at some questions in the chat? I think, I don't know, there are some questions on the
I
top.
haven't seen any question yet, sir.
First up, I think there was some question, but I'm not sure. No, I don't see any questions either.
Yeah, just Akash, like one, tip that you would like to give to the young researcher in qualitative studies. If that is so, what would be?
Sorry, sir. Come again, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Your voice was kind of breaking, I believe.
Yeah. What would be the one tip that you would like to give to the young researcher in qualitative studies?
All right, so it's just about read. That's the first step, okay? Because first of all, we must be in the know of what's happening and build a strong hold on your own discipline and try to develop an area of interest. Okay, that again, if you look at the current reality when it comes to choosing your research, is also guided by often what we call the market demand. Okay, that's also matter if you're truly looking at, because when you look at research as a career, you're trying to look at the next, almost like when you look at the early 20s, it's like the next 4 decades. So when it comes to social sciences, you must be looking at a topic that can fit you a job. Okay, probably for the next 40 years. That's the one thing probably I would tell you. So again, it doesn't mean that okay, you must be compromising on your the passion or the topic. Like I told you, if I have a choice, I would want to truly work on topics like Afghanistan, Pakistan. Like I told you, my academic interest is there. Okay, but I was just trying to realign with other topics like maritime because of different factors. Okay, so I want to be a little flexible. That's one thing too, because the one thing what we truly demanding from social sciences from my angle is that to be truly flexible. Okay, because once you're settling in your career and once you're kind of established, probably then you can divert. Okay, so the first thing is about building a strong foundation. Basics must be strong. Okay, and keep writing. Writing means, I mean, academic writing, and say no to AI. No AI, that takes you nowhere. Okay, so I would say that even people might say that, okay, even there are ethical uses of AI, yes, but again, I wouldn't really advocate that, because you have to write, because to write is to think. Okay, so don't let your work be like polluted with such kind of tools. Okay, because to research is to be human. That's what I believe in. Okay, so these are maybe a few tips what I can tell you.
Yeah, we have got one more question in the chat box.
Good evening, sir. This is Dr. Dipankar Day.
Yes, sir. Hi,
Uh,
sir.
Thank you that you made very wonderful presentations, and I like it so much.
Yes,
And
sir.
my first observation, sir, because we see in the quantitative research where the hypothesis play the significant role, but I
Yes,
come to
sir.
the qualitative research to make the test to the hypothesis. We are usually facing a lots of problem, especially the questions come whether go for the hypothesis or only research questions. Can you make some reflection that what is the roles in the contemporary time in research, particularly qualitative research, whether it required the hypothesis or not, and what is the procedure to test the hypothesis? Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your questions. It's very interesting too. Okay, something what everybody has to know as well, because depending on the topic, because anyway, the one disclaimer is that whether we acknowledge it or not, every study has a hypothesis. We are trying to either prove or disprove something. It's very inherent there. Okay, but when it comes to some manuscripts, for example, if you look at probably a doctoral dissertation, there's a way how do you do that. If you look at some disciplines, maybe it's something sometimes when I have some discussion with some historians, okay, they often say that some of their works are not guided by hypothesis at all. Okay, so that depends on the discipline, at the same time depends on the topic you are covering. But strongly, I believe in that hypothesis is very much inherent in every work. Okay, sometimes we may not know, okay, what you're trying to prove. But again, like I tell you, like I told you about the field work as an experience. Many a times, okay, field work is very humbling. So one term I told you, in the sense that we may have a hypothesis in mind. Okay, in fact, let me tell you, one of my own students who is doing a master's dissertation currently. Okay, so we have framed the research design and everything. Okay, when he went to the field, the data reality is completely opposite. Okay, so what happens is that sometimes we may even have to reframe the hypothesis in the midway. Okay, and when it comes to the provability and validating it, okay, that depends again on the topics you choose and also based on your research design and also the methods you rely on. For example, if you look at a mixed methods approach, okay, there is a way how you can conjointly, okay, prove it or validate it, okay, with the help of what we call the qualitative and the quantitative approach. You can do that. Or if you're strictly working on maybe predominantly mathematical tool, there are various tools like what we call the statistical measures we can take care of, like the ANOVA maybe as a method, maybe chi-square as a method. And then if you look at that, even the tools are changing. Okay, if you say that we are no longer restrained to the ideas of SPSS or anymore, we make use of Python as a programming, okay, maybe as a tool for even statistical aspects. Okay, so MATLAB maybe as a one option. And also the many tools covering up too. But when it comes to the very idea of hypothesis, like I told you now, how do I look into it is very inherent and very, very much challenging too. And I have to admit that. Okay, if you look at that, whether I am getting into a work, okay, assuming that this is it, okay, mostly it is not happening that way. Okay, but the one thing is that a hypothesis is inherently, implicitly part of every work. Okay, so probably you will encounter that only towards the end of your work. Okay, this is what you have been trying to prove. Maybe you have been completely untouched by that part until you reach out to the end. Okay, that's why at times, okay, research itself is very unpredictable. Okay, when it comes to us, okay, what you might be finding across, okay, what might be the data, right, and what you're taking it forward to. For example, there was very surprises. Okay, when it comes to again, like I told you about the IAF road that I have worked on. Okay, so we were also looking at some of the military dimensions of the road. Okay, like for example, it is an Air Force base now. Okay, so if you look at maybe a literature review, what we could find was that earlier during the British time, it was a naval base. Okay, so it was a naval base. Okay, and before that, it was a British Air Force base. Okay, then after becoming a naval base, it later became again an Air Force base. Okay, the kind of the identity changes it underwent, because one of the ideas we had in earlier in our work was that we were trying to narrow down the military nature of the word, much to do with the Air Force culture. Okay, what we call the military culture. Okay, but thanks to the history of the air base currently, which was also a naval base in the past, we had to attach both the naval culture and also the Air Force culture into the roads problem. Okay, maybe the road as a site of inquiry. So that's why if you see, only once you start doing the work and almost at times when it comes to the conclusion or the last stage or the last lap of your work, okay, many a times we would know what was truly happening. So many a times, okay, depending on the topic you're working, depending on the variables you have, right? And when it comes to mostly the qualitative variables, okay, many a times it might be a flawed idea, okay, maybe I would personally I'm saying, okay, to be, I would say that to be sticking on to with hypothesis very in a stricter sense. Okay, I think probably we need to be a little more flexible about that, because what awaits us is something very complex. Okay, we might find many things what we never even maybe like imagined. Okay, when it comes to when you truly get into the data, maybe as a field. I don't know whether I answered your question, sir. So I was just talking about the challenges, what I undergo usually when it comes to the hypothesis as a problem.
Harish, there are a couple of questions in the chat board.
Okay, so I found one
One
question.
is, what about the ethical issues of using mixed methodology is one. And
sorry, sir, what is the question, sir?
what about ethical issues in using mixed methodology?
Okay.
That's one question.
Ethical use, sir. Where is the question that also go?
Yeah, it's
okay. Ethical issues in mixed methodology. Okay, so again, the ethical issues in the sense like are you truly working with the right data? That's the first question. Now, when it comes to the mathematics or maybe such numerical data involved, okay, there are some chances that there is scope of misinterpretation. Okay, because the final idea of knowledge production is giving you the reality, because knowledge is nothing but the reality. So we can't mess up with it. Okay, and also the outcomes of the work should never be maybe something which is not true. That's the one concern what I have in mind. So given that the major ethical issue in dealing with the mixed methods is that you adhering to it, okay, by sticking on to, okay, the very real data, what you get. Okay, because sometimes, again, I'm also clubbing up the one question what sir has, the other sir has brought in about the hypothesis, because many a times people do tend to manipulate the data, okay, when it comes to like, since they want to match it with the hypothesis they proposed, right? So this is one of the major concerns that we usually have when we are trying to employ or apply the mixed method. So the question here is that sticking on to the data as you get. Okay, because that's the most critical part, I would say that, because the reality regarding social sciences is about like bringing out the reality itself, right? So we want the data as you found out, not the data that you manipulate in order to match with your hypothesis or maybe the idea you had in the very beginning of your maybe the research as a framework. So that's the first thing. And
There's one more question. How can researcher ensure objectivity and minimize bias in qualitative research, especially in politically sensitive topics? That's by
okay, so
Deepti.
all right, that's a very interesting question. Okay, so to be frank, I don't have a correct answer to it because nothing is truly objective. Starting from imagine if I am choosing a topic, okay, the choice of your topic in itself is a product of bias because you like something, your preferences are coming into the problem. Okay, so given that, what I would say is that the one important way how we keep looking at maybe how we relook at the world of research, this is what we call the post positivism as a philosophy. Okay, because the one thing probably what maybe as social science scholars we need to understand is that we don't need to understand the meaning of objectivity from the perspective of natural sciences. Okay, that means we need to have a different way of looking at objectivity. Okay, for example, what I experience is the reality. Okay, it might be bias or not. Okay, what I'm undergoing now, what is poverty to me, is my experience. Okay, so that's why maybe I would really recommend you to maybe read more on the lines of post positivism. That means we are trying to maybe disengage or dislocate from the very tenets of what we call the positivism. Okay, what we call the natural sciences and their methodology. So the one thing maybe what I would suggest is that relook at the word of what we mean by objectivity. Okay, that's what I would suggest.
Sir,
Others?
is it easy to
Yes, ma'am.
publish such works in indexed journals?
Okay, ma'am. Easy, ma'am. Again, it depends on the quality of your work, ma'am, when it comes to whether it's Corpus Index or Web of Science or both, because certain journals are indexed in both, apparently. Okay, it's about the quality of the work. And it's a very painstaking process, ma'am. For example, if you look at the article that I have published along with my co-authors, there's something on the right to starlight. Okay, the work was started during the pandemic. Okay, which means I believe back in the 20, just before the, maybe I think about I mean, before the pandemic, every 2019, 2020 at that time. Okay. And there was a challenge we had, okay, because we could not travel and everything, because that work is also a product of field work we have done. Okay. So it took like, I think I would say that around 3-4 years for us to complete that work because we had some field visits and everything. Okay. And we submitted that article to the journal back in 2024, and it got published only by Jan 2026. Okay, so starting from time as a factor, okay, peer review as a process, anonymous peer review, we know that goes to different peers and being reviewed. All right, so it's about the easiness. It's not just about the timing or even the quality of the work, because many a times we face desk rejections. Sometimes we may submit it to the wrong journals. Okay, for example, if you look at the work like the IAF road, what I have mentioned, the first thing what we had done was it was actually desk rejected by another journal. They don't even read it, because why? They found that the reply we got from them was that it is not apt for their journal. Okay, that's why many a times even journal finders won't help you with the maybe like choosing the right journal. Okay, so what truly matters when it comes to getting published in the index journals are nothing but the quality of your work. Okay, and also to be really patient with it, ma'am. It's a long process. Okay, because almost every work we have published has taken minimum, like I would say, 6 months. Okay, minimum 6 months. Okay, even to get the first response, probably. Okay, and it is even taking time, like even more than that. So there are some challenges. Okay, but if your work is good, it's definitely going to be published. That's one thing I would say.
Yeah, I just want to add more than that. Publishing, it's a real, as Adarsh mentioned, it is a painstaking stuff. But only thing is like your smartness lies in picking the right journal with the quality of your work. That matters, right? So, but you can just stay tuned with our MCCRC for further, episodes where we will be teaching the art of writing and publishing.
Okay.
Okay,
Adesh,
so,
I do
yes,
understand
there's
there are
one.
quite a few questions. Would you like to take a quick look at the questions, or do you think we can close it? There are two questions there. Is it possible for a beginner to do such advanced qualitative research? What is good for a beginner is number one. Number two is, of course, what are the current...
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
Sajimon, is it possible for a beginner to do such advanced qualitative research? What is good for a beginner is my first question.
Yeah.
And
Probably Ashik sir, he can quickly give the answer, or
yes,
he can just
yeah. So
officially close with the vote of thanks. Then those who would like to interact with the others can stay here for another 5 to 6 minutes.
yeah, one minute. So the second one is, of course, what are the current gaps in the interdisciplinary research between nursing and political science? Is the second one. Um, if you would like to just respond to it quickly, we
Okay.
can do that.
All right, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
let's
Yes.
see how it goes.
Okay, the first question, possible for a beginner to do the advanced? Yes, again, a beginner means you're taking the baby steps as the first thing. Okay, and you will definitely become advanced gradually. Okay, even I don't see myself as advanced at all because it's always a scope to learn more. Okay, the first thing is the humility matters when it comes to research, right? So the first thing is that I'm still learning. Okay, and anybody can take forward because the one thing is that my first publication came during my, I would say, my master's days. Okay, so which means that you have to start working. Okay, you need to be really like I would say that very perseverant about it. You can never give up. Okay, you will face rejections. That's a reality. And being a student is not easy to publish too in social sciences. When it comes to social sciences, at times that's a different reality. Okay, rather than natural sciences too. Okay, because again, like I told you, the one question again was about the question of subjectivity at times, right? So who takes us seriously is also a problem. So many times, so that's the one challenge what we have. And so you have to keep working. Okay, and be open to it. And definitely you can do that. You can definitely crack it. That's the one thing. It takes some time. Okay, to be truly grasping. Okay, how do you truly think on those lines? And the other question is about the nursing and political science, ma'am. I have never focused on that lines, ma'am. But the first thing that I would come to my mind is that probably there are many ways I can connect to nursing. Okay, when it comes to health sector, public health is one thing. Okay, the nursing, and when it comes to the questions of wage, labor. Okay, so these are some of the domains where we can truly work. And if I'm trying to bring in my perspective, okay, imagine my area of specialization into nursing, I would say that the military nursing has a problem. Okay, because if you look at the military nurse, we know that they also have the rank and everything. They're also like officers, if you see that. So the probably one way how I would connect with the question of nursing would be that maybe military, nursing, gender, conflict. So there are some gaps again. Okay, there are not much of a literature on military nursing. Okay, so that's what how maybe first thing that comes to my mind. Okay, when it comes to how I would connect, probably with the gap when it comes to nursing and political science.
Adarsh, considering the time,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much for
Yes,
the
sure.
wonderful
Thank you, sir.
presentation and the lucid presentation on behalf of the organizing team, as well as the
Thank
participants. We'd like to profoundly thank you for this uh, comprehensive presentation. Uh, we will again meet
Thank you, sir.
tomorrow, uh, same time at 7 o'clock for the next round of presentations. Thank you all. In case you have any questions, you may like to stay back and then ask questions to Adarsh, or we'll again meet up tomorrow. And then you have any questions, we can even discuss tomorrow before the presentation starts. But, thank you all for this evening. Looking forward
Sure, sir.
to
See,
tomorrow's
I
presentation.
see. Maybe I can stay back and answer too, sir. Not a problem, sir.
Yes, please go ahead if you would like to.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I think the one question is about the how can a researcher from humanities, particularly our streams, can continually do research, sir? Will you please? So this is the presentation itself was mostly on those lines. I think Mr. Tolkapian, if you're here, okay. So just that, like I told you, you need to build a strong foundation when it comes to your own area. That's the first thing we know. Okay, so you need to know you need to identify an area of interest. Probably it's the how do you choose an area of interest is probably based on what truly excites you. Okay, that truly matters. Okay, that means that okay, something that for something that don't force you to stop reading. Okay, because reading is very integral. Okay, for example, when I say reading, I mean truly read, not even audiobooks. Okay, but sometimes I do suggest audiobooks as well. But again, listening to something is not same as reading. Okay, because reading because even enhances your ability to imagine. Okay, so the first thing is that to start reading. Okay, that's how you start, and also read more on methodology. Okay, I would even recommend you to read some articles published by some of the best journals in the world. Okay, because you will also truly understand how these researches are carried out. Okay, for different topics, different maybe it's different themes. Okay, and different areas, even different disciplines too. So given that, what I would suggest is that start reading. Okay, the kind of the topics that you want to be researched in. Okay, and even connect with people, talk to them. That's also truly something that truly matters. So connect with people as well. Okay, that's the one thing I would suggest to you, Mr. Tolkapian. And another question is from I don't know the name. Okay, I'm a student of international relations, working out the scope of maritime cooperation into Pacific. Because of research constraints, I have to rely most of secondary data analysis. Theoretically, I'm afraid to relax engagement in respect of empirical research. Kindly guide me. See, it's not necessary that again, depending on how do you take forward your topic. Okay, so given this, again, within the context of, again, maritime cooperation Indo-Pacific, okay, you can truly make it empirical. Okay, not necessarily that it has to be something like a field work, okay, but rather depending on the methods you use. Okay, like even interview maybe as a method. Okay, so you may talk to people who are the practitioners in the field, maybe talking to, because one thing is that you may not be able to get the responses from the serving Navy officials. Okay, for example, if your work is also accounting for the Indian Navy, maybe as a variable here. Okay, but probably you can even talk to some of the former Navy personnel. Okay, they might be able to maybe open up a little more freely. Okay, so that's maybe one way how you can even bring in the empirical maybe as a nature to your work. So the primary data is not just about the field work alone. There are different ways how you can rely on that. Okay, so you can truly make it empirical, not a problem.
I think I see no other questions, Adarsh. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And thanks to everyone too.
One more
Thank you.
session tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.